Everybody, I'm Perloism and this is Ron Mont and we are fucking deep. Coming off our last episode where Ron just smashed Stevie Eisman getting fired 3 days later. I'm not sure he thought it was that quick, but I think he said it about 3 times in the post or in the episode. Yeah, but Eisman's getting fired.
But who's counting?
But Eisman's getting fired. You said it like 3 times. Kudos to you. I agreed. I agreed with you. Once I thought about it, I don't know why I didn't think about it before. Like it totally made sense. There's no way he's going to escape his job out of this. I guess the only reason why maybe I thought it, and a lot of people thought, is most GMs with his track record up until now probably would have been fired already, and it's the old Stevie Eiserman simplex where it's like so hard to get rid of a guy like that.
I think if the deal with Larkin would have gotten done quickly, instead of him strapping on his ego, right? Because he was like, "Oh yeah, well, I need a 1C in return that's ready to play now too," and blah blah blah, and you know what I mean? Like, well, look, you're really not going to get that, so good luck. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
should take what you can get. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
so that's kind of where that's what I think he stepped over the line there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if
I
he would
think
have
there's a
just said,
lot of GMs there that would realize the value of keeping a right energy within their organization. And, I can definitely see trying to max out what you can get from Minnesota. Like if it's, I don't know what they're offering. Maybe it's so bad that he didn't have a choice. I don't know. But there's a lot of GMs that really value cohesion within their organization and knowing that this type of energy for a long time can really affect you in more ways than maybe trying to get that extra player. Not to mention the fact, read the room. Look at what's out there for centers, dude. I mean, there's nothing out.
yeah, but now Detroit just bought themselves a whole peck of time now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now they're not going to do anything until the next GM comes in, and then that's going to be dropped into his lap. You know what I mean? And so it's already, almost 3/4 of the way through July, and training camps are going to be starting soon. And you know what I mean? And you're going to want to have guys in place by then, maybe, you know, especially if you're going to be dangling Larkin or anything else like that. You know what I mean? I'm sure. And you stripped him of his captaincy. So is he really gonna come back and play for Detroit? I mean, even though Stevie Y is technically, not the GM anymore, I mean, do you still bring him back now? I mean, I think you kind of soured that relationship.
I think if you bring him back, you're going to be doing it in the sense that with the general manager, that of course the way general managers do so, such usually with very flowery and political language, that we totally agreed with the way, disagreed with the way the situation went. In other words, you're basically taking in some ways Larkin's side, and you're saying there's going to be a redirection, and we're moving in a different direction now. And we talked to Dylan. We've worked out maybe some communication problems and all of those things. And in some ways he sees our side, and other ways we see his side. That wouldn't be a bad way to go. So I think it's possible, but honestly, I really have been saying all along, and we're going to get into the title here in a second. This is actually a lot to do with the title. That's why I got my fatigues on today, because I've been going to war about this topic. That's really what it is. Like I've had a lot of backlash on my take on the topic we're going to talk about, and it's a lot because of this Larkin situation. Um, I think but I have said all along, yes, I'm going to spell it out. And this is something you don't hear too often on podcasts. I think there was collusion. Yes. I think Bill Guerin has been helping this all the way through in his own little way with the agent, trying to figure out the best angles to be able to get him to Minnesota. Yes, I think people's head explode. Boom, collusion to blah, blah, blah. You think collusion's not happening in the NHL? Come on now. Of course it is. It's the way you do it. You can't prove it. It's happening. You don't think agents talk to other agents? You don't think agents talk to other managers? You don't think this happens? You don't think they talk about their client to other managers even when they haven't? Yeah. You don't think that's happening? Okay. You believe that little cloud that you're on, but I ain't buying it. No way.
Let me throw some oxygen on. Let me throw some oxygen on too, right? Because not only that, but you get players that talk to other players
Yeah.
that
Yes.
they're buddies with.
Of course.
And
You
they're
got
like,
social media.
hey, you got, hey, man, why don't you try to come down to our team? We'd love to have you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, in so many words, in so many ways, in so many whatever.
You know what I mean? Like, come on. Look, we already know that happens, right?
Yeah.
Players have already come out and said that they've talked to other players, especially their friends, and have said, hey, why don't
Mitch
you come to our
Marner
team?
talked to who was it? One of the fellow that just retired right now, Reeves, about
Oh,
Vegas.
yeah,
He
okay.
said that himself. Talk to him about Vegas. I don't know. Is it collusion or is it just like, hey, how's Vegas? You know?
Or you'll get players that'll be like, "Hey, did you were under certain such and such a coach. You were under certain
Yeah,
such and such a GM for this
of
team at
course.
such and such a time. What
Yeah,
was it like for you? You can't tell me that's not happening."
yeah,
I mean, people are it's human beings here. Come on.
yeah. When Quinn Hughes, when Quinn Hughes was going to go to Detroit, and they said, "Well, I've had the argument." I said, "Well, he didn't give him any indication that he was going to sign long," and they're like, "Well, you can't do that because you can't talk about that until July 5th." Blah blah blah. You telling me that an agent and a manager can't talk in a way that is indicating one way or another without actually asking or saying the question?
Hey, how about if we do this, right? I'll play the GM and you play the agent.
Okay,
Right?
sure.
Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we say, "Hey, we're going out to dinner tonight." Okay, right? And
yeah.
you say, "Hey, number 16, man, I'll tell you what, boy, he'd really like to stay here. Or
Yeah,
we'd
well,
really like to keep him here. We'd really like to keep number 16 here, man, for a really long time, man. You know what I'm saying?"
okay. Oh,
Here, let me pick up that tab for you.
yeah, yeah. Let me pick up that tab for you. Yeah. Or how about this? I'll be Quinn Hughes. I'll be Quinn Hughes' agent. You be Stevie Eisenman when you're talking about trying to figure out how long he's going to be there. You know, Stevie Eisenman says, I might be able to work this trade, but we're not going to be able to find out until July 1st if he's willing to sign a long-term contract, right? Right?
Right, right.
And they're saying you're right. We won't be able to talk till July 1st about whether
No, we can't do that deal. We absolutely cannot do that
we
deal.
cannot do that deal. Absolutely not. Cannot do that for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So, like, there's
right.
a million ways you can go
You
about
know,
it. There's a
but
million ways that
look,
you can
so
get the info that you need to
we're
get
just
about
doing
those
some
certain.
hearsay a little bit. We're doing some hearsay a little bit, but for the most part, there are those meetings, there are those things that happen between people because they're people. We know that players talk to other players on because they're either related, they're brothers, right?
Friends.
Or cousins or friends or whatever, or they train together and they might, this guy plays for this team and this guy plays for that team. And the
Yeah.
one guy might just be saying, hey man, we could really use a guy like you and see, and be great having you on the team, blah, blah, blah. And they got
Mhm.
to play in the Olympics and all those guys that were playing in the Olympics. And I'm guaranteeing you there's players, especially on some of the European teams that are like, hey man, you look pretty good. You know what
Yeah,
I
I mean
mean?
that Bill Guerin and the Olympics with the, you know, doesn't just takes a little larks. I love you, man. He's freaking awesome. It would be something else. It's too bad got a long term contract with Detroit. It's, but you know, if that wasn't the case, it'd be really nice to see you in a Minnesota uniform. That's
Are you listening to this guy? I mean, seriously, are you listening to this guy?
come
It's like,
on.
come
They're
on.
Hughes and Larkin aren't talking back and forth when they're good friends already. They already hang out with each other all the time. And Hughes is going to possibly go to Detroit, but they're not talking back and forth about how excited they might be to go to Detroit. And if they don't go, they're not doing that. No, not happening. Anyways, so let's get to it. The title of the show. So all of this, Larkin is the most polarizing one
Right now.
through
Right
all
now,
of
yeah.
this. But we have Werenski that asked for a trade. It's come out that Brady Tkachuk asked for a trade. By the way, good way to get yourself traded. Have your dad on and have your dad tell everybody in the room they're pussies. It's not a bad idea on your podcast. That's that happened.
That'll get you
That,
traded quick.
that happened, right? They're sitting there like, anyways, and so yeah, he Brady Kachuk came out eventually that Steos did make it public that he did ask to be traded. It wasn't Brady Kachuk that said that he did it. It's Steos that did, and I imagine that's saving some face because of the return. But quite often they don't make these things public. Like, you have to realize that there's lots of times that a player asks to be traded, but you'll never know they did. Sometimes if you see a player get really bad return and you're wondering how the heck, why did they trade? A lot of that times is that maybe they wanted to go somewhere else. But Werenski, the whole Werenski situation, he came out and said that he probably won't be really re-signing in Columbus. So he gave two teams apparently, and Tampa and Toronto, and they decided to keep him. Marchenko was in that boat. Am I missing anybody else that kind
No,
of did this sort of thing?
but I think that this is actually a perfect Perlo right into the title of the show here
Yeah,
because did you like what I did there? Anyway,
that, that was a segue of a segue
segue,
of a
right?
segue. Yeah,
Oh man, the CEO, right, of Jaime's Body Lube, right,
yeah, yeah.
is all about this absolute point. The name of the show here, and that is this: the no trade movement.
Right.
And
Just did an
what
article
exactly?
on it on the hockey news. Yeah, yeah.
So, what exactly is the NHL going to do with that? And folks, I got to tell you something, right? I've read very few articles out there because there's very few good ones out there.
Mhm.
Okay. And Mr. Perlo Wisdom puts out an article for his first go round. And I got to tell you, man, I love how you didn't just dip your toe into the sea of NHL drama. You just put your finger over your nose and dove right in head first, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah,
was a great article. Hop on over to Hockey News, man. Be sure to check that out from the great Perlo Wisdom, man,
yeah.
with the awesome Puck in Deep, man. Got to be sure to check that out.
Hmm.
And I got to tell you something, man. I honestly, I think it was pretty poignant. And man, dude, that has to be the hotbed conversation on everybody's tongue
Seems to
right
be.
now because of this whole Dylan Larkin thing, and then all of these multiple other things that have happened in the past or that didn't happen in the past because of this no trade clause, no
Hmm.
movement clause,
Hmm.
or limited movement clause, or
Hmm.
whatever it is that you guys want to. And there's different versions of it, right? Because the limited no movement clause means that um, at least one party can go to the other party and say, "Here's a list of teams."
All right.
Right. And the no movement clause means absolutely that. You cannot move the player unless you get specific permission by the player to
Mhm.
waive the no movement clause. And that's happened already too in the
Right.
past.
Mhm.
And the biggest controversy, but what I also think too is what you addressed in your article is this. Should it still exist? Should it still be part of hockey?
Yeah, should it is a good question. Um, that's an interesting question. The well, like the angle I have on this, I guess you would say, is it already is part of hockey because it can be negotiated into individual contracts. It always has been able to be negotiated. You could,
Right.
anybody with a no movement clause, say, we're going to negotiate this. We'll give you a no movement clause. However, if you ask us to be traded, it goes to a 10-team no trade list. And that's what everybody's, not everybody, but a lot of people right now, fans are hurt. Okay. Fans are hurt. That's the thing. When Larkin says he wants to be moved with 5 years left on his contract, that hurts fans. And they think that that shouldn't be allowed. And this is not ethical. I get it. You think that's not ethical. You sign the contract. You got to keep, you got to keep your word. All of those things. I get all those things. I get the argument for it and the fact that
Absolutely.
fans are hurt.
Absolutely.
Fans are
Yes,
hurt
absolutely.
when Columbus, when you have a big name like Werenski just won the Norris. These are the guys that are doing it too. Some fairly big names. Brady Tkachuk comes out, says he would like to be traded. Now we don't know what he did have a no movement clause. Um, I don't doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that he probably wanted his team was probably Florida that he was going to.
Yeah, think just a guess on that
Yeah.
one, maybe.
Do you think he probably maybe gave them 3 teams? Possibly, but he just has to find 2 teams that he
Yeah, you
did.
know what he probably did? You know what he probably did? He went to him and probably said, "I'll tell you what, I'm gonna give you 3 teams, right? And
Yeah,
you
because I'm a nice guy.
ignore the first two, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and the first 3 teams are gonna be
yeah.
Florida."
I can just see that. Like you could pick 2 teams randomly that have no cap space or anything like that to be able to do the deal. And when his agents already called around to find out which teams wouldn't be able to take him, say, I don't know, Tampa Bay. Keep them in the same division, of course, too.
Whatever.
Uh,
Whatever.
uh, Tampa Bay. I think Minnesota was offering something, but I don't know.
Whatever.
Oh yeah, I think
Doesn't
Minnesota was on the list, but and then I don't know. He probably throw Florida on.
Yeah, just throw Florida.
Throw the team
Yeah.
you know absolutely without a doubt I'm going to on there
Just
eventually.
throw Florida on it.
Just
Yeah.
throw them on there. I've only
Like
got
I
1 year
said.
left in my contract, so whoever you trade me to, I knows I'm going to Florida after that. So you have no leverage whatsoever. But they like to play the games, and I understand. Now the question is here. This is my thing, and this is what got a lot of flack on it. I said they already can make the deal. They already can say that when they're negotiating the contract, like say Bedard just did, negotiated a contract or whoever, we'll give you a no movement clause or a free agent, say like Tuck was a free agent, had a bunch of teams he could go to. I don't know if he was just like super high on Washington or not. I don't know, but he probably had other teams that were very interested. And say Edmonton Oilers say, look, we'll give you a no movement clause, but if you ask us to be traded, it goes down to a 10 team. And he goes to Washington and they said, well, they got the same amount of money, but they got a no movement clause. But if I ask for a trade, it's 10 team. Washington's like, forget about that. No movement clause. Because you want the player, right? And you want the player. So, and now people are saying that the league somehow should step in, which they can't, as you know, because we have a collective bargaining agreement between a union and the teams, that they're going to have to wait for that to happen. And that the people I talk to seem to make it sound like the NHL can just abracadabra make this happen, to have that
You know,
happen.
Perla, you said a very key phrase right there.
Mm,
Okay. And that is the team wants the player. So they will give the player whatever
right,
they want, whatever that player wants in order to get that player.
right.
See,
And why is that?
that's
Why
the
is that?
disconnect. See, there's the disconnect there, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Because well, look, let's look at this logically, right? If you're going up against anybody else in the league and the only thing that's preventing you from going from one team to another is the fact that Perlo's team is going to offer you a no movement clause, and this other team over here is going to offer you a limited no movement clause.
yeah. He's going to take away your right to ask for a trade, but you have to give 10 teams. Now, let's go deeper into that. What does that mean for the player? Like, it's the argument is that it's unethical that if you ask for a trade, that you should be able to pick the teams you go to. Okay, why is that necessarily unethical? Let's look at the Dylan Larkin situation. Yes, he signed an 8-year contract. There's a whole bunch of things we don't know here. When he signed that contract, I'm sure he discussed with Stevie Yzerman the direction of where that team is going, right? 8.5 or whatever the case may be. Was there promises of some sort of improvement over the next couple years to him when he signed the contract? Or
Wasn't there also a coaching change in there too?
yeah, there was a coaching change as well. Um, or look at it from the player's perspective. Okay, he loves Michigan, so you're going to be able to convince him to stay there pretty easily. Like Larkin truly loves Michigan. He's born there, played college there. His wife went to college there. They have roots there. Their whole family is there. They
Exactly,
love it.
exactly.
It's not
You're
hard
right.
to talk them into signing that $8.5 million contract. Now, one of the things that they find very upsetting is it's heavily front loaded, right? So now, if they trade him, they've paid him out mostly everything. And I say, was that not a red flag for you?
Well, let me throw something at you then. Okay, let me throw something at you. The offer sheet for Carlson, right,
Crazy front loaded.
was $39 million front loaded.
Yeah.
Okay, right,
Well,
and you're not going to sit here and tell me that the Connor Bedard contract is not front end loaded.
yeah, imagine is I don't know, but yeah. But in this particular case, it was heavily front loaded. They wanted the player. Okay, so yeah, it's very possible Dylan Larkin's like, I don't know if this is going the right direction, but I love Michigan, so I'm going to make sure I get my money now. So if I decide to change my mind later, I've already got my money, and everybody's mad about that. Okay, you're mad about that? Guess what? You would do it too. That's what I'm trying to say. You would do it
I
too.
mean,
Every single person I'm talking to about this talks to me like they wouldn't do that. Oh no, I would never do that. I would go minimum because I love the team so much. And blah 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 blah. Yeah, right. You're gonna. What if it's your son? What if it's your son and your son comes and says, "Detroit is offering me a contract and." I'm thinking about getting like front end heavy loaded so I get my money right away. Do you think that's a good idea? Yeah, I think it's a pretty good idea. I don't think that's a long conversation, right? Yeah. What am I going to tell my
and I guarantee you, that his agent is sitting there going, "Yeah, you want that
yeah,
front end loader? We get all that bucks right now because
right away?
agents
Yeah, not a
get
bad
paid
idea.
big time."
Like you're going to tell
Okay,
your
well,
son, we got to do what's right for the Red Wings here. Make sure that you don't want to. No, I'm sorry, you're just not. Okay, so he gave himself an out clause.
Okay,
And
but
and it
listen,
wasn't a
Curly,
no
here's the
clause
thing.
because when he actually asked for it, when he's got 5 years left, it's true. Steve Eisenman knows it. Everybody knows it. He's really giving up a lot of leverage in this move, but he does have the money in pocket, and this
True,
is the
but the
frustration from this, and this is what is really causing. In fact, Jonathan Davis, also a great friend of mine of the show, and of course on our our betting shows when they're on it during the season. He said that he talked to a lot of executives, and they said that the league has got to stop this and blah blah blah. They got to go, whatever. Well, of course the executives are going to say that. That's in their advantage. Absolutely. I'll tell you what, if their executive son was Dylan Larkin, they would not be telling Dylan Larkin to not do what he did. They're not going to tell him that. For their own benefit, yeah, we need to do that
yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. This is an outrage. Let's get the fans behind us. Blah, blah,
you
blah,
know,
blah, blah. Of course.
there's no loyalties anymore now. Teams don't have loyalties to players per se, and players don't have loyalties to teams per se.
Yeah. Not in
You
a lot of
know,
ways, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of and I think people still kind of expect that the way it used to be where, guys would be like, "Yeah, man, I really like playing here," and then they retire and they still live in the city and everything else like that. Like you just don't get that anymore, right? Cuz guys are always looking for the next biggest thing. I mean, not
True.
every single one of them, but most for the most part, if they can get a bigger, better contract somewhere else, they're like, "Hey, welcome to the new team." You know what I mean?
Right.
Like let's and
It's
it's all about that, right? It's all about what can you do for me now, kind of thing for the players too. Who's
it's
going
an
to pay me the
interesting
biggest contract?
thing you bring up because I think there are teams that have created an environment of a little of trust in some ways that have been able to do this better than other teams. Carolina Hurricanes seem to do very well. They seem to be able to sign guys and I think some of that has to do with maybe personality profiling when they draft players or pick players up. They kind of find guys that, what it comes down to, and what I talked about in the article was it comes down to value. It's really what it comes down to. What is it that a person is valuing in the situation, and how much balance of value can an organization help a player have towards doing what's best for the team and winning a cup? Really, when it comes down to, that's what it comes down to. And it's if you're drafting players, there apparently is ways to find out if they're very money orientated. Sometimes as simple as they have parents that are very wealthy, and it doesn't really matter that much to them. Sometimes it does come down to that. Like,
I mean, you can see teams that, you know, that are drafting well over the last, say, 5 to 6 years have been drafting well, what they're trying to establish, the culture they're trying to establish, the kinds of players that they're drafting. You
mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like when you look at a lot of the players, like the prospects before they're drafted, and you look at what those kind of players are like, and then you see, oh, okay, this is why they're being drafted because they've got work ethic, they've got, you know, skills, they've got, those intangible things, they've got want to, they've got, I mean,
All of that
it's the
stuff. But
exactly.
I think a new layer has come when it comes to drafting now. And that is this layer that I'm talking about. Getting a read on what a person's personality is towards money and what they can do, what they may be willing to do. Like there are players that are taking less for the better of the team. What kind of personality does that? What kind of background do they have? What kind of family do they have? I think that there's a lot of research from the organizations, from draft and development teams, going into what type of person, what type of personality, what type of background is it usually is the type of person that isn't going to go for the bag every contract, that isn't as financially driven as other ones. And I think that is part of the drafting process right now, to tell you the honest truth.
I mean, real deal said it in the chat. The best players do take a pay cut sometimes to build a team around them. I do agree with you, but it does come down to what the team's value is for those players. And that the sad part about it is that the players don't always have the same value as the teams do. You understand what I'm saying? And now when you get these really, really, high end players that are asking for trades, I mean, we're also talking about Hellebuck has asked for a trade, Werenski's asked
All
for a
about,
trade.
yeah, it seems to. I've never didn't do it publicly, but it seems to.
Right. I mean, Bobrovsky was traded. I mean, there was all these other guys that were traded that, didn't come out that they wanted traded, but were definitely know that the trade bucket was coming, whatever. Right. And how many of those guys had, you know what I'm saying? It's like you only hear about it every occasionally because the guy that can't get the deal done, or there's something that's holding up the deal or something. And now, oh, well, he has a no trade clause. Oh, well, he only gave him 3 teams. And now this whole thing comes up, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's one of the few things that players have that gives them any kind of leverage in the future. Yes, and that's the other side of the coin on that, because they want that, they want teams to commit to them for multiple years because they want that stability. Right. And yet they still want to be able to say, if things go sour, they still want to be able to get traded out of there. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, like, let's go to we'll continue on with value, and I'll get to that. They want to be able to move somewhere else thing. But first, the value part. If they were to do something or negotiate or bargain something where if you ask for a trade across the board, this is the way it is. It's a 15 trade or team no trade or something like that. Usually with the 15 team no trade, you and your agent can sit down and find out the teams that aren't going to be able to take you and still be able to get pretty close to where you want to go, but it doesn't matter. If that is the case, if they do something like that, that does not change the value of the player. So if they're not capable, if they can't have that security blanket of being able to get out if they want to, and we'll get into why they may want to after this, then what am I going to do? What am I going to do as a player? I'm not signing long-term contracts anymore because I know my value. I'm going to want 3 to 4 year contracts, which means I'm going to be a free agent every 3 to 4 years, which guess what happens then? You get more. And the salary cap keeps on going higher and higher. So and guess what? We just talked about how the teams are basically going to give players whatever they want if they want that player. So they're going to get higher AAVs with shorter terms, which is really bad for the cap. And that was the whole reason why this no trade clause stuff went in the first place, because it's a security blanket to be able to keep the salaries down a little bit. So it keeps them under the cap. So if you want to do it a different way, now you got a new problem. Now here, and I just don't think I think the league really understands this. And I really don't think that the players union is going to feel like they are desperate to sign this to make it happen with that type of, because they know that it's not going to change the value of the player. Either way, doesn't matter. It's still going to hurt you one way or another. That way. And if you want a long term, guess what? If you want a long term now, used to be that maybe you could take the term, get a little less money for long. Now I don't have that trade protection. No, no more. I need money now. Because if you're going to move me and my family somewhere where I don't really want to go, which is not good for my family, and all of those sort of things like that, I better got to get another couple million to pocket so I can fly my family 3 or 4 hours instead of 1 hour, or whatever the reasoning is for moving to a place that their family doesn't want. People have families. And the narrative that, oh, they're making millions, they should just shut up, that's just jealousy. Anybody in any situation, in any financial situation in their life, is always going to choose the thing that's best for them and their family. Period. It doesn't matter how. You didn't become a billionaire to not take care of your family. They didn't take you become a billionaire to put your family on the back burner, although some do. But anyways, now
But I
the other
get what you're saying, though. You know what I
but
mean?
see, now
Like, yeah.
how is this important to players? Well, go back to the Dylan Larkin situation. What if you're stuck in an organization in your mind that's spinning its wheels, and it's more than your mind? I mean, it's there's a pretty good narrative out there that Detroit has not gone very far in the time that they've been rebuilding. And Isa plan has always been it's going to take as long as it takes. And you're sitting there hearing this over and over again. You're now 30 years old. You haven't had a sniff of any kind of contender feeling until you go to the Olympics and then go, oh, this is what winning's about. Oh, I kind of like this.
Oh, and look at some of the teammates I'm playing with.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Quinn, this is what winning feels like. Yeah, it does. It does, Dylan. Kind of like this. Maybe you should go
You don't
somewhere
want to
where they're
take a little.
winning.
You don't want to take a little trip down
Now,
to
if you don't have that, now
Minnesota.
let's say you have this deal where they say that it's full bore 10 team. Yeah, like you can only give 10 teams. So you can end up in, his, like we said, his roots are in Michigan. He loves Michigan. He's not leaving Michigan because he doesn't like Michigan or Detroit or even the Red Wings in general. Just it's a professional for his professional goals that he's had since he was a little kid. He doesn't see it happening there in Detroit, and he doesn't want to wait any longer because you only get so many chances. That's why he's doing it. And you got to take what, there's 20, 32 teams right now. So you got to take only 10 of those teams off the list, and you can just basically go anywhere else after that. You don't know where you're going. You don't know if it's good for your family. You don't even know if it's going to change your goals really all that much. More than likely, he would end up just not saying anything. At least his family is in Detroit, and he would keep on going, and it would be not very healthy for anybody in that situation either. He would have been discontent in the whole situation. So I don't see how doing this is really helping much at all, except to make fans feel like that they're getting back at what they think are entitled players. That's it.
See, and I understand why there's that sentiment. Okay, because that they're making a lot of money and everything else like that, and okay, and then you talk to these guys before they make it to the NHL and the sacrifice that they make.
Of course. You see, you're a good example. You're the prospect guy. You know what they do, right?
The fact that they give up a life, a social life, all throughout those primitive years when you learn how to make relationships and learn how to talk to people and interact with people, and all they're doing is interacting with their hockey team and their billet families, and that's it, and that's all they're and the people in the gym, or their skating coach, or the person that's showing them how to do certain training exercises and blah 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 and blah blah blah. And it's like, are you kidding? And you see what it takes a village to get one of these kids to the NHL,
And
right?
it,
And then after they make it to the NHL, then it's like, well, you still kind of have to finish certain parts of you only sign a an entry level contract, which means you're probably still going to play a year down in juniors still, or maybe a year or two in college. and then you're going to come to the AHL. So you're still a couple years away even from trying to make it into the
Mhm.
NHL, unless you're like Bedard or Schaefer or,
Yeah.
right.
0.0000001% person.
Right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so it,
Yeah.
it's when they sign their entry level contract, right? It's for less than $1 million for 3 years, right? And do you guys have any idea how much it costs for hockey equipment? How much it costs to pay for these guys to live,
Mhm.
and the stipend that has to go to the billet families and things of that nature? I mean, this is not cheap.
Yep.
Okay, to play hockey, it is not cheap, right? Now, yeah, when a player gets into the professionals, he doesn't have to worry about paying for his own sticks and stuff like that, unless
Yeah,
they
a
want
lot of families are
special
wealthy, but
stuff,
still, you're putting out a lot of money. Not to mention private colleges, private schools that are that those
private
can cost
training,
private
private
training,
training,
coaches, all of this stuff
yeah,
like that. But even with all of that, there are guys that are just as skilled as a lot of the guys in the league that never make it,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
why? There is a there is a level of determination and belief in whatever it is in these guys, the work ethic, natural talent, and even if it's elite natural talent, we've seen how many guys have come in with elite natural talent, but they can't handle the league. They don't stay committed. Like the commitment it takes and drive to make it to the NHL is insane.
And
There's a
then to
reason why
continue to
they're willing
play,
to throw as no movement clauses, money, whatever this money is, and everything at these players because they're rare. They're rare. That's why. There's not very many that can play in the NHL. Go try to find a center out there right now. There's lots of centers in the AHL. There's lots of centers over in Sweden, a lot of centers over in Russia, but they you have to comb it through to find one that that's going to be good enough to be able to play in the NHL, to have all the
teams
attributes to be able to be there. I
teams
mean,
aren't
it
willing.
is the value of these players is incredibly high, man. They're rare.
Teams
They're
aren't
rare.
willing to draft a good center and let the good center come through. You know what I mean? It's like you're not going to buy a center because there's so few and far between, and you're going to have to go to the tree and get one.
Yep.
Right? You're going to have to pluck one off the tree and develop it yourself because you're not going to be able to go buy one.
Not too
Right?
often. They're just not out there. I mean, and now they're going to have expansion for another two teams. It's even less and less and less. So you can try what you might to change this no movement clause or whatever, but one way or another, the value doesn't change. Whether you're going to give them more money, whether you're going to give them no movement clauses, whether you're going to do whatever, it isn't going to change until the unfortunate thing that will happen. And really, really not, I'm not really looking forward to this day when there's a luxury tax, and it's coming.
Let me ask you this question, Perlo, as far as the no movement clause and things of that nature. I I kind of feel that they should be still allowed, but slightly modified. And I think this only has to be for a select group of players. And I hate to use the model that the NBA is using, but max contract. I mean, there's gonna have to be some kind of something that gives here in the NHL. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're seeing what these NBA guys are making, right? They're signing like 4 or 5 years, man, for $150 million,
No,
right? And that's called max contract. That's it. That's the max you can get. Whatever, whatever. You
yeah,
know what I mean? I think you're going to get to a point where you're going to see the NHL do that.
Yeah, probably.
right? Yeah. You're gonna you're just gonna have these max contract guys, and it's gonna be 4 or 5 years, or whatever. Or because I don't think you're gonna see what the NFL's doing. Like what the NFL's doing is where they're giving you know guys like Mahomes 10 years for 370 million.
Hmm.
Right? I don't think you're gonna see that in the NHL.
Well, yeah, I mean, the difference in the sports here are the difference in the television rights and how much fandom there is. With football, they almost can't do anything wrong. Every single one of those teams is making a ton, like every single one, right? With the NHL, it becomes the reason why the no movement clauses are in here is to try to keep the salaries down so they can save franchises. And that's really, if you're going to go into this like in a bargaining sense, the way I'll I'll go now on the owner side of it, like the owner side of it. If I'm an owner and I want to see if we can get something done with this no movement clause, I would spin it like this. We've got expansion coming in here and we're going to have more jobs for you. So how much is it, how much as a union are you going to work for the guys that are going to get jobs and not rather than your own self-interest here? Because if we continue down this way and you have players that are giving no movement clauses, have taking their no movement clause, and I'm not saying it's wrong because it's in the contract. That's the way I would say it. You're allowed to do this. I understand you're trying to do what's best for your family. I get it. Totally get what you're doing. I'm not slamming you for this. But if we don't get players to our Columbuses, to our Winnipegs, to these new franchises coming in, to some of the other teams that are small market teams that really are low on the list on the no trade clauses and stuff like that, if we don't, if this isn't viable for them, you're going to lose a lot of jobs because they're not going to be organizations anymore. And there's only so many organizations in North America that that's not going to be the case for, because you could go to KC or Indianapolis and it's going to be basically the same as Columbus or the same as whatever. So if I'm going to try to play on this and maybe make it sort of happen in some way, that's the lean that you're going to do. What are you going to do for the whole? Because we are, as it stands right now, we're trying to grow the game, we're trying to get more fans in, as it is with our television rights and all of those sort of things like that. The cap is rising, and we have teams that are not making any money at that low cap unless they make the playoffs or hit for two rounds or go for two go for
Well,
two rounds in the playoffs
you
or
have
something like
teams
that.
that aren't even at the ceiling, or that aren't even at the floor of the cap. You have teams that aren't even at the floor.
Yeah, they're not at the floor, but they have to get to the floor. That's always going to be the case. But there's some teams that, like Columbus right now, I think the reason why Wierenski and Marchenko said that they're not going to be resigning is simply that team can't be a cap team. So they're just not going to be able to get the dollars there. And if they do, it's not going to be they're not going to be able to build a team around them. And this is what's starting to happen now. So if you're the owners, that's the spin you're going here. How are we going to work this together to make sure that we can
Yeah.
maximize the jobs for everybody and get max for, whatever the players. I think I don't know what the answer to that is, but I totally understand the player side. The idea that you're going to give only certain amount of players, the no movement clauses and not the other ones, I don't know if that really solves anything, because your middle sixers are just as valuable, to tell you the honest truth right now. It is
Well, we
hard
think
to
they
get
are.
good middle
We think they
sixers.
are.
It's hard to get good like really good scoring middle sixers right now. There's a lot of teams using fourth liners on their third line right now. tons of teams using what would normally be fourth liners on the third line. The
Hey, one
talent
man's
level is
trash is
thin.
another man's treasure.
The talent level is thin. So what's going to happen is like, okay, we don't have enough depth. We just got crushed by Carolina that's got depth coming out of their yin yang. They're beating us with their lower lines. They're just pulverizing us. Now you've got a guy like, say, Marchman out there. What does he pull? 6.5 for 6? Something like that. 6.7 for 6, full no movement clause. Take away the no movement clause. Say, well, we don't have no movement clauses anymore, only for the wealthy guys. Okay, 8.5 sounds good. So you didn't solve the problem. You just created a new one over here.
Yeah,
They're not
right.
going to
You
take
don't.
less without the no movement. They offered them no movement so they could go, look, you want 7.5. We'll give you a full no move, shave $1 million off. Will you do that? That's what this is for. That's what it's for. It
I'm
doesn't
glad that
change
you
the
pointed
value.
that out. I'm glad that you pointed that out, though, Prello, because see, there's a lot of. It feels like there's that. What exactly is a no movement clause? What exactly does it mean? How exactly does it work? Who's it good for? Who's it not good for? Things of that nature. Why is it there? Why isn't it there? I You have to have those points made because it's it's partially for the player. There's This is such a complex kind of a situation here that
Yeah,
you can't really put it onto one thing. You just have to say that it gives a player a certain amount of leverage,
it does.
and teams use it for leverage too because it helps to entice them to get players that they want.
Yeah.
Instead of shaving off that extra $1 million, we'll give you that extra $1 million and we'll give you a no movement clause. All right, okey
Mhm.
doke. Where do
Yeah.
I sign? Like who's
But
going to
one of
turn
the
that
things that
down?
any organization can do to alleviate some of this stuff is have a great energy organization that really has a love for their players. Like, who I really love right now as a general manager? I don't know about his decision making with players. We'll see how that works, whatever. But Craig Conroy in Calgary. Um, when you got a guy that like Coleman, when he got traded to Minnesota, he said, I know that I really want to win another cup and stuff, but it, I've really loved I really love Calgary. I love Conroy. And I love the way he treats his players, and I love the way he genuinely cares for us. You know, maybe try that. See how that works out.
Yeah, try
Like,
that. Hey, what
yeah,
do you know? Try
see,
that.
if the organization really does that and actually genuinely cares, what did Armstrong in Utah there? Well, he just signed Marino to 6.5. That was a great contract, by the way. Excellent contract for a very very good second pair defenseman. 6.5 for 8 years in this market right now,
That's
and I'll say probably one of the reasons why when Hayton he was offer sheeted from New Jersey, whatever 6 point something or whatever for 1 year, which pushes him over to free agency. And New Jersey matched it. And Armstrong put out a public statement. I don't know if it was a report or like if he was actually who he was talking to, but he said, and it was genuine. It was awesome what he said. He said, I have no I have no animosity towards Barrett. He's trying to make money for his family and do the best for himself. I have no animosity towards Maida in New Jersey, who's trying to better his team and finding angles to do that at all. I'm happy to have Barrett back, and we'll see what happens for the year from now on. But this is just the nature of the sport now, and everybody's just trying to do what's best for themselves. And yeah, I have Maida and I will, See you around sometime. You're totally cool. I might do the same thing. I don't know, but that is a really amazing energy that he's putting out there. That I think the players talk. Trocheck, he was dead set on going to the East. Dead set on it. He did not want to go west. He got Brisson as an agent, and all of a sudden changed his mind. And apparently, Brisson, he's got some guys in Utah, and he said, basically, look, I know you don't want to go west, but there's something about this Utah team. This Armstrong is really loves his players and he takes care of them well. I think you'll really enjoy your time there, or whatever the case may be. And you're getting this from players all over the place. That is a heck of a way to maybe get some no movement clauses that don't go in there. You know what I mean? Maybe you might be able to get a little in your favor here and there, a couple million. Dondon, we just talked about how he did that with his family and stuff like that. Say what you want about it. The guy loves his family, and guess what? He treats his players like their family. That was his message. This is my family. And from what I understand, if you stay in Carolina, yeah, you might take less. But when your career is over, you're my family still. So I'm a multi-billionaire. You think you might get some Christmas gifts, maybe here and there, you
know, or a job,
or job, or whatever. This is the angle that more teams really need to go down. I don't know if Calgary has a lot of golf tours. I'll tell you that right now. They have a lot of charity golf tours where ex-players go on.
Come to think of it, so does Philadelphia.
So does Philadelphia. Michkov, from what I understand, Michkov told his agent to tell everybody he only wanted to go to Philadelphia. That's what I heard. Tell his agent he only wanted to go to Philadelphia. Funny that Michkov happened to drop to Philadelphia.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because guess what he's been doing now since
he's been working his butt off, I'm sure of it.
Since the Olympic break. He's stayed in town. He's not going nowhere, man. He's in the gym. He's on the ice.
Crush it next year. I've been saying that since.
Dude, I'm going to tell you something right now. If Rick Tocchet doesn't put him as one of the leading people on the team, smack him around a little.
No, he will. Oh, I'm sure he will. Absolutely.
You don't have much of a choice because you ain't got much else.
Michkov's going to force him on. Force it.
You don't got much else. You got Forster and Tippett. That's about it.
Well, he's playing the right. His natural position is right, though, right? The right side. So you've got, doesn't Konechny play that right side? And
I think so, yeah.
Konechny and, the kid. They're stacked up.
Martone plays on that side, too.
They're stacked up that right side. So eventually somebody's going to have to go there. But I love that Michkov kid. Like, I know people, we talked about it. People were angry that they played him down. You can't play a kid that comes out of shape like that. But the fact that he played as well as he did out of shape, this guy's going to be great.
All I can say is this: as great as he has the potential to be, I want to see the opportunity be there for him.
Yeah, I'm positive he will. He will take that spot. It's going to be tough. You got Konechny, Martone. We talked about what we think about the future of Konechny down the road. But all right, so we went over what we were going to talk about, and I wanted to get all of this out. It was only a short article, and
hey, but at least we got to cover everything. The last show we put out, we put the title in, and we didn't even cover what was on the title.
We didn't talk about Edmonton this time either.
No, we didn't. Oh well.
Yeah.
No big shake. Hey, I tell you what though, man. Really good stuff, man. You guys got to hop on over there. and check out the article there from the Mr.
Yeah,
Pro Wizard.
I
And
also did a Boston Bruins video on there. I did a couple articles. I might do one later on tonight for the hockey news. But remember to be checking out Puck in Deep and R&J Media. You're back in business. You got
well, I'll
what do
tell
you
you
got
what,
going?
man, we got some potential news coming here soon, man, with a partnership.
Yeah,
So stay tuned out there to Puck in Deep.
yeah.
Yeah, man,
Partnerships
some good
coming up.
news, man. Some good partnerships potentially coming up here for the show. That's going to give us a much broader look and a much broader audience. So, yeah, man, stay tuned for that, man, and be sure to check out all the great things over
Oh,
at R&J Media with Prospect Watch. We just did Will Schletwig from the Muskegon Lumberjacks, and we got some guys lined up from the WHL as well too. So be sure to check that out here coming August. So because Helenka Gretzky Cup is going on here directly, so guys are training and playing for that. So yeah, man, be sure to check us all out, man.
yep. Got to go now. Thanks for listening, everybody. Catch you next time.